Illini fans, today's Page Turners is right up your alley. We've got an author who knows Illini sports backwards and forwards, so much so that he literally wrote the book on it, and now that book is in its 3rd edition.
The Illini Legends, Lists, and Lore author Mike Pearson is here with us this afternoon. So, ILL?
I.
How long have you been an Illini fan?
I graduated from Michigan State in 1975, and my very first professional job was here in Champaign.
Really?
So that's 42 years ago.
They didn't hold being a Spartan against you.
No, I guess they didn't. But I worked for a great Illini football player named Tab Bennett, who became the sports information director. And so that's where my vintage is. It goes back some 40 years, but I've gotten to meet, virtually all the great legends of Illini history.
And you've been exposed to, as you said, all this sports information. And in your office, you're dealing with all these great people and even non-great people. You're dealing with athletes of all kinds and seeing really the potential that these athletes offer.
Yes, well, and you're exactly right, Matt, because they're more than athletes. There are some really intelligent people, and but as I told you off air, I've met all the legends. I've met Red Grange, Dick Butkus, Ray Nitschke, all of the ones through the ages, and that gives me the most pleasure. But sports information, for people who don't know the profession, is all about trivia. It's all about little notes and nuggets that the announcers use on TV.
Yeah.
That people love. They adore when you get that little, oh, I didn't know that.
Well, and it shocks me how quickly they can come up with those statistics. Like, while you're watching, you're like, where did they do that?
Yeah, I don't know. There isn't a coincidence. So we used to say when Keith Jackson used to come to town to do games for ABC, we have a whole page of notes for Keith, because typically he didn't even know what town he was in at that point.
Oh, no.
So when you came to Champaign and he had this page of Illini notes, he just kind of read them off as the game went on.
I will say that whenever people do use those statistics that, like, this has never happened, and it always does. It, like, completely is a jinx.
Well, we had any number of record holders. Howard Griffith back in 1990 scored an NCAA record 8 touchdowns in one game, and so we were after the 5th touchdown. We're thinking,
how far do we
better get the record book out here.
Yeah, well, Mike, I want to talk about the book that you wrote, and so you get all of these nuggets. You started, when was the first edition of this book?
First edition came out in 1995. It was in correlation with the centennial celebration of the Big Ten Conference, of which Illinois was a charter member of the Big Ten Conference. The second edition came out in about 2002, and then for the centennial celebration, they asked me to update it again, so we added another 15 chapters and several pages.
Just a few more chapters. 150 years of Illinois. Has sports been part of it the entire time?
No, not the entire time. Of course, the university was founded in 1867. First athletic team was 1883, so not too long afterwards.
Yeah, so very early.
We've been talking about some of the legends we've seen there on the cover. What are some of the lists and lore that we'll find in this book?
Well, what I tried to do with this book is write it in USA Today fashion, in 300 words or less. So lists they're kind of fun. What was the first contract of Bob Zupke? How much did he make?
Oh,
well,
wow.
He made $1,500 in his first year. Lovie Smith makes 3 times that every day.
Isn't that crazy? Wow.
Well, there's a lot more on the line, though, because really athletics has evolved too. I mean, this is not small time. This is not. I mean, we have small town heart, but this is a big time industry, and some of these people are going on to do amazing things when they leave Illinois.
Well, that's right. I mean, professionally, especially. You've got any number of basketball players, football players, baseball players. Kevin Anderson, played in the U.S. Open final this year. We've had Olympians. We've had any number of greats and several who have gone on to sparkle in other areas.
Yeah.
Why was it important for you to bring in more women? We have people of color, differing abilities. This edition kind of expands upon that.
It did. This year, I didn't feel like I did a very good job with chronicling women's history in the first 2 editions. So this year, I decided we're going to have 2 pages for every year that the women's varsity program has existed. It started in 1974-75, and so 2 pages from that point added another almost 100 pages
Wow.
to the book, and we're up to 472. I'm not responsible for back injury because it weighs about 10 pounds, I think.
But so much good reading there. And like you said, it's in digestible nuggets, USA Today style form, and that's important.
I decided to make this a book that you could put on the nightstand, open to any page, read it, close it, open the next night, and open a different section and read it.
Might be a little too big for a bathroom book, but definitely coffee table or bed nightstand.
It fits very nicely on the toilet paper stand.
Okay, people can come and check this book out for themselves this weekend, right?
They can. I'm doing a couple of signings, one on Friday afternoon at the Illini Union Bookstore. Darren Fletcher, an Illini baseball great, former major leaguer, is joining me there. And then on Saturday is at Barnes & Noble at 7 o'clock, and we'll have a special guest there as well.
Well, we so appreciate you coming in and sharing this with us. It's
Well,
so cool.
I'm glad to have you, and thanks very much for the invitation.
Absolutely.
3 editions and you're still humble. That's good. Joking about
my wife wouldn't say that.
Well, you're a great guy to talk to, Mike, and so definitely come see these book signings. You can meet Mike in person, check out this amazing book.